Welcome to this special episode. Here at the Noble Marriage, we've received a lot of requests from women for more resources to help you walk through the daily challenges of being a woman in faith in the world today. So, joining me for this episode is my friend, Jen Cudmore. She is my mentor and spiritual advisor, and she has partnered with our ministry through intercessor prayer. And couldn't be more excited to partner with her for so much more. And we're going to talk about that in this conversation. Please share a warm welcome to her in the comments below, and let's dive into the conversation together today. I know as a woman of faith, there have been so many times where I have felt like I needed to check these boxes in order to be the spiritual, godly woman that I'm supposed to be. But at the same time, I would feel so stuck on the surface. It was like those boxes just didn't feel like they were making a difference when it came to my walk with the Lord, my walk with my husband, and people around me. And so we are so excited today because we're going to be talking all about some shifts that are happening in our ministry to really gear more towards women and helping women, just like Travis is helping a lot of men right now in the brotherhood. And so I'm so excited to be with you, Jen.
Me too.
You and I go back a little ways, which I just think is so cool how God, first of all, brought us together
For sure.
and now how he's having us partner. I'm like, I wish I would have seen this back in, what was it, 21, I think
Yeah. Yeah.
we met.
Yes.
And we met through what is just the coolest avenue. We both were enrolled in a course called Freedom,
Yes.
and we didn't necessarily connect through that course, but then share a little bit about how God laid on your heart and then our connection,
Yeah.
how
I
that
don't
happened.
really remember exactly what it was, but I was just like, I think the Lord wants me to invite Travis and Adele over for dinner. And of course, we had only been in South Carolina for a couple of months. And so we wanted to make some friends. And I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. And so I remember the only thing I really remember about that first night is thinking, I'm not sure this like I didn't feel the full connection right away, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we still had a lot of growing to do. But I remember being impressed with what you guys presented as far as getting your ministry started and just thinking, like, I could tell that the Lord was on that. And I was like, this is going to be really, really great. And so I definitely wanted to like continue, the friendship wherever it went because I really wanted to see what the Lord was going to do with you guys. But anyhow, I was a thought popped into my mind just because I am an intercessor, so I always think about these things. I was like, okay, you guys know that you do need a prayer team behind you, right? As
Oh,
you get
yeah.
this going. And so that was kind of the main thing of the night is you were like, oh yeah, we should develop a prayer team. And I was like, well, I'd be happy to, pray over the ministry. And now 5 years later, look at what God is
I
doing.
know.
It's
I
so
know.
great.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I think the cool part of that about that is we hadn't really kicked off our ministry yet when we were getting connected. And
Mhm.
the other thing I think is interesting is that I think if we would have had any other connection other than a God connection, you and I may not have been friends
I
because
agree.
we're so different.
I agree. Mhm.
But what I have just seen through our friendship is we have so much in
Well,
common
yeah, we do.
because of our relationship with God.
Yeah.
And I have just found that to be so special with you that you and I developed a friendship based on the Lord. And then ministry is second to that, and how God is using you and our ministry to pray for our couples, to pray for us.
Yeah.
That now God is taking it to a whole nother level of your involvement in our ministry,
Yes.
coming on as a partner.
So excited.
Yeah. So, just a little side note there is Jen is joining us as a women's coach.
Mhm.
And the Lord, she shared she's an intercessor. So, I would love for you to just share a little bit about what that means.
Yes.
But the Lord has just put so much wisdom into this woman right here. And she is my go to when I need support, when I need wisdom, and I'm not hearing from the Lord. She's the one I call. And so I'm just honored to have you join our ministry because I know you're going to make such a difference for women.
Yes. I really believe what made this friendship is the fact that you and I were both pursuing freedom so hard
Yes.
because we were so tired of our baggage and we were so tired of the junk that we were carrying around that for the longest time we didn't know how that was hindering our lives in
Right.
like a bajillion different ways, right? And so like the more you and I would dig into what does freedom look like, the more we were like, "Oh my gosh." And I think because we were able to get so much of that junk out of the way, then we could value each other for who
Yeah.
God says we are, right? And
Yes.
not letting our, as you use the word thorns, not letting that garbage get in our way and prick things. And
Right.
that's what I love is because I feel like you and I are a testament of what it means, why freedom is so important.
Yes.
Because look what God is doing.
I know. And,
Anyhow,
when we entered that freedom program, I really felt like I had freedom,
me too.
and it provided the missing links and the missing pieces that
Mm,
I was lacking to have lasting
mm,
freedom, because
right.
what I was experiencing was a lot of temporary freedom
Yes.
that I would end up back in bondage again and not understand why. And that just like brought all the things together and connected all the dots for me, that
Hmm.
has allowed for me to have lasting freedom, which we've now incorporated all into our ministry to
Right.
help others have lasting freedom.
Right, and I think, like, for me, for my journey, I was learning some different things through some different programs, and it was like each program had a really great approach to it, but it wasn't thorough. And so
Yes.
I just kept searching. I was like, there's gotta be something that encompasses the whole being, and we can go into that more some other time, but, like,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what just kept me going is, like, I know there's still more, and why, anyhow, how do we fill those gaps and learn the things so that we can begin walking it out, as you said, with the full freedom and not just temporary. So,
Yes.
anyhow, yes, freedom
Yes.
is so important.
It is.
So important. So, okay, intercessor. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my a brief history of my journey. So I had no idea what an intercessor was. I grew up in a conservative, traditional type of churches, and they didn't really talk about Holy Spirit much, right? It was
Hmm.
really based on the Bible, which is great. I love that I got such a good foundation, but I learned nothing about the supernatural. And I didn't even realize how much is going on out there. And so I remember at some point the Lord was talking to me about being an intercessor, and I was learning to hear his voice more, and I was like, well, I don't know what that is. And so I was trying to do some research and read some books on, for a while I really thought prayer warrior was the same thing as intercessor, and it's
Hmm.
not. What
Right.
I learned is that every believer, per what the Bible says, to pray without ceasing, to always be praying about anything and everything. That's what every believer needs to be doing, right?
Hmm.
So every follower of Jesus really needs to be a prayer warrior. That's part
Hmm.
of what it means to follow Jesus. But what I've discovered is that an intercessor is a specific calling where God gives you assignments similar to, like you're called to be a pastor,
Hmm.
evangelist, worship leader, right? Everybody's given certain talents and gifts and skills and called to a certain type of assignment for the kingdom.
Right.
And one of those is an intercessor, which is based on Ezekiel, the Bible verse, Ezekiel 22, verse 30, where it talks about God said, I look for someone to stand in the gap. And so that's what intercession is. God will give you an assignment and say, hey, there's a problem here. Can you stand in the gap for this person, for this situation, for this organization, like the
Yeah.
noble marriage? And so, you know, we pray over things that the people or the organization maybe don't even know what's going on behind the scenes, but
Hmm.
you get to deal with it for them so they can focus on their calling, right?
Yeah.
So for you guys, it's teaching and helping couples. So I get to do a lot of the spiritual warfare on the back end that you don't even know about sometimes.
I
And
can't
so
even imagine how intense that can be at times.
sometimes it's a lot. And so I have really learned about that, studied it. I've read over 25 books on prayer because I'm so passionate about this calling that God gave me and the importance of standing in the gap in certain situations and what does that look like depending on the assignment God gives you. So anyhow,
Yeah.
there's the little
Well,
overview of intercession.
I didn't even know what intercession was until you explained it to us.
Yeah.
I think it was that first night you invited us over,
Okay.
and I was like, I feel so seen by God
Oh,
that He would speak to you to go to war for us and
yeah.
deal with this supernatural things so that we can just be freed up to
Mhm.
minister to couples in our calling. And we feel it. Like,
Mm,
it is not something I ever take for granted
yeah.
because on so many occasions I have reached out to you. There's like so many issues going on, and I can tell when you pray because things quiet down, things start to calm, issues melt away, and I'm like, "Oh, Jenny's on her knees again. I can feel it."
Love
And
it.
so the other thing that has just been so cool to me is even though I had a personal relationship with God that was deep, I was still in the beginning stages of learning about my own prayer life and how to
Yeah.
encounter the Lord.
Yeah.
And watching you and getting to know you and seeing your relationship with God really inspired me so
Mm.
much because I was like, she has something I don't have, and I want that
Yeah.
because the way you would talk to God was just like a normal conversation. And I thought it needed to be more formal or,
Yeah.
practiced and
Sure.
respectful and all those things. Like, there's nothing wrong with them, but it
For
didn't
sure.
feel personal.
Yep.
And so we started to dive into prayer together, and you were leading some small groups that I was joining and
Yeah.
learning more. And that really kickstarted my own journey of prayer, which I haven't stopped either. I'm just like, I want more. I want to know more about prayer and
Yeah.
develop that as much as I can because it is my relationship. It's what defines it. It's
Yeah.
my conversation and the breakthroughs that happen come from those moments. And
That's right.
so it has been so cool to watch as you've inspired me and really encouraged me to step into that role that I've been able to help other women because of the influence that you've had in my life. So
Yeah.
I just
Oh,
want to tell you thank you and honor you for that
thank you.
because I don't have a lot of friends in my life that I can truly say that person inspires me. I have a very small group.
Oh.
And the other cool thing is I had been praying when we found out earlier that year God wanted us in ministry. I was like, God, we can't do this without prayer. So will you please send us people to pray? So
Oh.
when you came to us, I was like, He did it.
Oh, that's so
He
great.
answered that prayer. And I
Oh.
just didn't think that would happen for years. And
Yeah.
so that was just such a cool little moment too, where we
Yes.
have seen a lot of those God
Yes,
moments
we have.
between our relationship now,
Yes. Mhm.
that started, way back in the beginning with some freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. God is moving. It's
Yes,
very
he is.
exciting.
Yes, he is.
I love the privilege of being able to be a part of it when he's
Yeah.
doing things.
Yeah.
So,
It is
yeah.
life giving.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I just wanted to chat with you about, thanks for joining us in our conversation. We just
Right.
want you to feel like you're in our living room with us.
Yeah.
But one of the things that was inspired out of my relationship with the Lord and prayer is my book called The Noble Life. And it has been such an honor to lead some women through this right now as a pilot group. You can find it on Amazon. I'll put it in the description box, and
Mhm.
Jen will put it in her podcast links as well. So you can go grab
Yeah.
your own copy because I want to say that the Holy Spirit wrote this book. I was just his vessel, and I'm going through it myself. And this morning, I had the coolest thing happen where one of the reflection moments is the study I'm in right now is talking about the sacred connection of a noble wife and how we can call our husbands to greater and we can speak to their true identity of who God is creating them to bring out the best in them.
Mhm.
And this morning, the reflection question was, let me just go to it. It said, "Holy Spirit, Spirit of truth and wisdom, you know the hidden depths of my husband heart better than I could ever know.
Yeah.
What specific word of life or declaration of encouragement do I need to speak over him today?" And he gave me a special word for my husband. And
Mm.
moments later, I hear Travis romping up the stairs to come grab something down the hallway. And I was like, hey, so glad you came up here because you don't know this, but you came up here because there's something I need to share with you. Even though you thought you were doing something else. And he was like, okay. I said, I just want you to know I see you.
Mm.
I see how you care for your family. I see how you're pouring into your parents and their health. And I just want to acknowledge you and honor you for that because I know you're not always seen in that. And God sees you as well. And I watched him just break down. He
Mhm.
was like, "I didn't even know I needed that, but I deeply needed that." And I was
Oh,
like, "Oh my gosh, what
oh,
a cool experience to
yeah.
walk through, that the Lord put something in my heart that I didn't know he needed." And then when I was just obedient in delivering that, he didn't know he needed it, but he desperately needed to hear those words. And so as I've been going through this book, it's refining me as a wife. And it's been an honor to have you in the group going through the book and hearing what you're getting out of it as well, and how the
Mhm.
Lord is refining you and in your role as a wife. But
Yeah.
what I really want to talk about is what's exciting about this book is at the completion of it, everyone who goes through this book and you complete it at about, well, not totally complete it, but about 4 weeks in, you'll have the foundation to then join what's called the Noble Sisterhood.
Yeah.
And Jen will be leading the Noble Sisterhood, and we're going to kick it off with a brand new program that she has created all about prayer. And she's going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But the sisterhood is going to be a place where you don't have to do life alone.
Yep.
You get to come and be real and transparent and raw and
Mhm.
share the things that are showing up for you in your life. And more importantly, be able to receive biblical, solid truth on your best next steps, or how to move forward, or ways to phrase things, or mindsets to have. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things that the Lord wants to pour into women. And
Yep.
I know Jen is a spirit-led, godly woman and wife, and she has a lot to share. And so I just wanted to share about the sisterhood because it's going to be a place where you are going to want to join in.
Yes.
You're not going to want to miss out on this. We're doing
That's
our
right.
best to keep it affordable
Mhm.
so that every woman has no excuse but to join.
Yeah, totally.
So
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little more in a minute, but I wanna go back to the book because
mm,
I have to say I have read, I mean, over 10 books on marriage in my life. You know, Tim and I have been married for 27 years next month. I'm so
way to
excited about that.
go! Yeah.
But you know, we had a marriage crisis about 12 years ago, somewhere in there, and went to counseling and all the things. And oh my gosh, I wish I would have had this. I
Mm,
wish I would have had this when I first got married
right.
because it's like everything I've read in other books you put in here, but you like condense it down so clearly and so
Mm,
simply like that. I'm just blown away. Every time I
mm,
read stuff, I'm like, this has been so fun for me because it's like I'm relearning a bunch of stuff that I already learned, but then still getting some tidbits of different stuff too, stuff I'd
yeah.
never heard. Like I love when you talk about the difference between trust and confidence. I was like,
Mm,
whoa, like that is crazy. Like, exactly true the way you put that together. And definitely this chapter that we're on right now about calling out the king. Oh my gosh. I will say this concept saved my marriage. I really
yes,
believe
mine
that
too.
because I learned how to do less criticizing and pushing, right? And more about um, that sacred influence. I just love that
Hmm.
wording because you do have influence. You
Yeah.
can help him if you would learn how to speak to him in the right ways. And I have never been very great at affirmations. I
Hmm.
don't, it bothers me. I wish I was better about that. But these concepts are just I don't know, just really, really great. You've done such a great job with
Thank
this.
you.
It's so good. I know so many wives are their lives are will change.
Yeah.
It's and
It's
their marriage will
transformational.
transform. Oh, it's so good. Anyhow, definitely go buy this book. Go get it. You will not regret reading this book. And however
Yeah.
long it takes you, I know some of it can be a little bit of hard work in the digging, but oh,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful. Anyhow,
Just
I
that
just had to say.
I wanted to say, you were talking about like pushing, and when we're pushing from behind, it's
Mhm.
control, it's
Yes,
manipulation.
for sure.
But when we're inspiring from the front, not
Yes.
as a leader, but as a strong ally,
Yeah.
it changes everything. And that's what you're describing. And
Right.
it inspires me to inspire
I
Travis. Like
know.
the other one is disempowering because
Exactly.
there's resistance, and
Yep.
there's uh, like, what's the word? Rejection of it.
Yes.
I don't want to be controlled.
Exactly.
And when we're just inspiring from the front as God has created us to be, oh my gosh, that is where transformation really begins. And
Yeah.
I can agree that transformed my marriage.
Oh, it was huge for me. It was such an eye opener, and I really leaned into that concept. Sorry.
So talk a little bit about your teach us to pray. So we're gonna in
Okay.
the sisterhood, and we'll dive into that even more. But
Yeah.
when we kick off the sisterhood, we're gonna start with your new program. It's called Teach Us to Pray:
Yes.
7 Keys to Transform Your Life.
That's
So
right.
share a little bit about.
So, all right. I for the longest time remember thinking, I've been a Christian for so many years. I'm doing all the right things. I'm, saying my prayers every day. I'm reading the Bible. I'm going to church on Sundays and Wednesdays. Like, I feel like my life should be better than what it is because I'm obeying the Lord, right? I'm doing all the things. And I know so many other women can relate to that, the idea of the checklist Christian, right? And I knew about the whole idea of building a relationship with the Lord, but I actually didn't fully understand what that meant. I thought I
Mhm,
had a relationship with him and I really didn't.
mhm,
And so the reason I bring that up is because it's around the idea of, we think that once we get saved, life should be easier, right? God will take care of us. And there's truth to that. But if we don't deal with our junk and our baggage, there's so many open doors where the enemy is going to keep tormenting us, right? So if we want to get to that place of a rich, satisfying, abundant life,
yeah,
we have to do some things.
that's right.
And so I say all of that to say, like, for me, I began this journey of, um, where the Lord had invited me to go deeper, essentially is what it was. And I tell that story on the podcast and in the book that I'm writing. So I was delving into what does that mean? What to go deeper with the Lord, and it all started around prayer for me. And
Mhm,
so I really feel like the what I've seen is there's really kind of two thought processes when it comes to the way Christian women look at prayer. They either feel intimidated and confused, like, I don't know if I'm doing this right or well or whatever. And they feel like there's a lot of rules around it and it has to look a certain way. And I'm not eloquent enough, so I can't do it out loud, like whatever, those kinds of
mhm,
things, right? But then I also see the other side where there's a lot of people that feel like, well, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to learn anything else. I understand it. And what I've discovered is like on both sides of it is not the right approach. And
mhm,
so last year, how this came about, last year I usually spend January talking with the Lord, right? What do you want for the year? What do you want my goals to be? Those
mhm.
kinds of things, right? I know you guys do that too. And he dropped the words in my spirit, intercession coach. And I tried to tell him there was no such thing as an intercession coach. And uh, long story short, I leaned into that. I started developing a training program for intercessors, which I'm doing my pilot program right now. I have 4 beautiful women and I am loving this
That's
so much.
amazing.
Yes, I'm loving it. So anyhow, if you are an intercessor or think you might be, I'm going to do this again next year. So
Yes,
keep it in mind.
yes.
I'd love for you to join my intercessor training program. But anyways, all of that to say, as I was diving into this and trying to understand what is the Lord asking me to do and what does he mean, training people how to pray. And um, I had a pastor friend as I was talking to her. And she said something along the lines of, well, you need to do a program for like a beginner basics program. And I was like, really? And she said, yeah, there's so many people who don't know how to pray and they're not getting trained in their churches.
Right.
And at first I was kind of resistant. I thought, no, my heart is for intercessors, right? Because that's who I am. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, there is a real gap here. There is a real gap. And
Mhm.
I was never taught how to
Me
pray growing
either.
up in church. It was just assumed that you would figure it out the closer you got to the Lord. And I really wish if I would have had the option that there would have been something for me,
Mhm.
right? And so I was like, okay, why not? So anyways, that's how we developed the program.
That's
So
amazing. I just
yeah,
wanted to say, like, for me, I thought prayer was asking God for what I need,
right,
and that was simply it.
right.
And so a lot of times I was asking him for things not aligned with his heart, not
Hmm,
praying
hmm.
for the right things, and then walking away after praying that, hearing nothing,
Yep,
and then just taking action in my own will
exactly.
to be God's will
That's
for
right.
my life. And I've seen that in other women I'm coaching too. So I'm sure you have
Yes.
seen that,
Hmm, hmm.
that when we do get aligned on the foundation of what prayer really is and what it offers,
Hmm.
transformed my mind
Yeah,
around relationship with the Lord.
for sure. And so for me, it was a learning how to shift from talking to God to talking with God.
Yes.
And the idea that two-way conversation is actually what he's looking for.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that until I was in my 30s. 30 years
I
in
didn't
church and
know
I
that
never heard
existed.
that. Right. I mean, I knew you could hear God speak a little bit, but, for the first 30 years of my Christian walk, I think I maybe heard him speak to me maybe half a dozen times
Yeah.
because nobody told me I needed to train myself and tune my ears, right?
Right.
So much we missed
Clear
out
out
on.
the noise and the static.
Yes. Yes. Crazy, crazy. So, yeah, so this program really, I feel like is a different approach because a lot of prayer teachings I've seen, they give you lots of how-tos or ideas of things to pray over. All of that's super great, but what I love about this is I feel like the Lord had me come at it from a much more well-rounded perspective of like the whole idea of how everything in your life affects how you show up in prayer and
Mhm.
can affect how God shows up for you in return.
Yes.
And so, taking that broader perspective of what's going on in my life, what are the, wounds I still have open, what are the unconfessed sins that are still lurking, what are the limiting beliefs and the lies that are still, got me tied up in these strongholds and mindsets that are inaccurate, right? All of
Mhm.
that stuff affects how you pray, and we have
Absolutely.
no idea. So, yeah, I'm gonna
Mhm.
tackle all of that in this course. So it's self-paced. It's 8 videos, and we talk about the 7 different keys.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I was really, happy with the way the Lord kinda led me to build it, so
Well, I'm
super
looking
awesome.
forward to going through it myself. And so we want to invite you, if
Yeah.
you are not joining the sisterhood, you can still do the Teach Us to Pray program self-paced on
Yes.
your own. We'll put the link in that for that below as well, so you can go check that out.
Mhm.
Highly recommended. uh, just to really solidify what you are doing.
Mhm.
Because maybe you need some confirmation on what you're doing is the right way, but maybe there's some tweaks. Maybe there's some adjustments that you could make that would transform your life. And wouldn't you want to know what those things are? So
Yeah.
definitely join the program.
Yes. I love talking about prayer. It's changed my life so
Yeah.
much and my
Well, it's
relationship
changed
with the
mine
Lord. Yeah.
that you are so passionate to talk about it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about sisterhood and what your plans are, starting off with that program
Yeah.
and then ongoing from there.
Well, okay, so we haven't totally figured it out. We're going to spend some time with the Lord, but essentially, like the goal is that we want, the Lord never meant for us to live in isolation, right? We
Right.
know that from scripture. Especially the model of the first church in the book of Acts, and how they just lived and prayed together. I mean, all so
Yes.
much and supported each other. And so that's basically our vision is that we want to be a safe place, a secure place where women can come and without judgment. Because sometimes you get in, women's Bible studies or women's
Hmm.
groups, and there can be a lot of expectations or, uh, I guess, judgment, criticism,
Judgment.
right? And so
Yes.
you don't feel safe. And so our goal is like, no, we're meant to do this together. And we understand that none of us are perfect. And so we want to encourage each other, support each other.
Hmm.
And just, it's important to have community. It's important to have your tribe, right? People you can count
Yes.
on. So,
I think that one of the things that I've seen with women is there isn't a safe place, so they are in isolation.
yeah.
They're not doing life with other women because there's been other women who've hurt them.
Hmm.
And what I've learned through all of this is we all have our own junk,
Yep.
and it's just different flavors, but it's human being junk
Hmm.
that we all have. And when we actually bring it into the light and we share, somebody else who's listening, it's like, me too.
Yep.
Now they don't feel judgment and they feel seen just by the fact that somebody else is dealing with something similar to
Yeah.
what they're going through. And we were just on a community call the other night, and a woman on the call was just sharing that she's going through something really hard. And in her life group, she shared with the life group leader. And because the life group leader did not know how to handle the crisis she's walking through, she uninvited her to the small group
Oh my
and told
goodness.
her, I don't have time for this. And I don't think it would be best if you continue coming to the group.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I
That's
actually,
so
it made me
terrible.
cry
Oh yeah.
listening to that because that is the very heart of where sisterhood is. I never want a woman to feel like that
That's right.
with what she's walking through. Like,
That's right.
nobody needs to go through crisis and challenges in life alone. And
Yeah.
I've been there, and it is a dark place to be alone.
Mm.
But when I have community around me and I'm seeking after the Lord, it's empowering, it's
Yes.
inspiring. It encourages me to keep growing
Yeah.
rather than getting stagnant. Because when things happen and they're tough things in our life, the easy thing is just to become complacent and,
Yeah.
oh well, nothing I can do. I guess this is just my lot in life
Yeah.
is misery. And that's where the enemy wants us. He doesn't want us to be empowered to be the woman God has called us to be in our true identity in community. Like that's where life
Yeah.
giving happens. And so I'm super excited for women just to feel safe to share
Right.
the hard things.
Right.
And we're not here to fix you. We're
That
not here to offer
exactly.
you solutions, but we are here to listen to the Holy Spirit and what does he want for you? Because maybe there are women out there that they want to hear God, but there's blockages, there's
Yeah.
barriers. And that's where I know you are going to be such an inspiration because you are connected to the Spirit and you can relay, this is what I feel in my spirit that the Lord would want for you with biblical scripture to back it up. It's not just opinions
Yeah.
and random advice.
Yeah.
It's very spirit led.
Yeah, I mean, the point is we want this to be a sanctuary where people feel safe and they can share, and that is our biggest goal. So, some of the things that we want to provide or offer are things like, group prayer, checking in on each other, celebrating spiritual growth, wins. I mean, that's really
Yes.
important, right? I also want to create some space for encounter with the Lord, right? We want to practice hearing his voice because we need a safe place to do that, right? We want
Yes.
to learn how to develop those two-way conversations with him. We want to get creative in how we spend time with him.
Right.
Right. And so, I don't know. I just, the whole concept behind this, freedom, prayer, intimacy with the Lord, that's my jam.
Me
Like,
too.
that is like what God created me to just, I'm so passionate about those things. And so I love that I'm going to get to help women in all those areas. And,
Mhm.
we'll see where the Lord takes it.
I know. I'm excited because it is a mystery right now. Like we have calls set up,
Yeah.
but we don't really know exactly what the Lord is wanting for this
Yep.
sisterhood. So I'm
Hmm.
excited to step into faith, step into mystery
Yes.
and obedience and
Yeah.
just see where he takes it and how
Yeah.
he grows it and how he transforms lives through it.
Right.
I know with Travis's brotherhood, like they're in at 40 days now,
Oh, yes.
and I'm watching men's lives be transformed through
Yeah.
that. So I can see a glimpse of what's available,
Yeah.
but we haven't experienced yet or started it.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to share with you, we're going to be starting in August. So you want to find out more about that before then so that you don't miss the first call
Yeah.
because it's going to be such a good time together. We'll put the link in the description for sisterhood as
Mhm.
well. So then another availability that we have for women is one-on-one coaching with you. And I'm
Yes.
super excited about that because there's all these avenues. You could do all of them or you could do one of them. But maybe it's, I'm going through Jen's program, Teach Us to Pray, and I'm like stuck because there is something really powerful in real life application
Yes.
that's person to person
Right.
as well as accountability of follow through because
Yes.
humans, we're like water. We will take the path of least resistance and we will not
Mhm.
continue growing in the hard areas we really need to grow. And
Mhm.
that's where you come in as a one on one coach
Yeah.
to support women in continual growth with the
Yeah.
Lord.
I have found that, because I love to read and I'm so interested in growing my faith, I do read a lot of Bible studies and self-help types of things from a Christian worldview. But, you soak up all this information and then you're like, but now what? I got to take it from the book and figure out how to live it out. And
Right.
that's the hard part. And that's where I think one-on-one coaching is so valuable. I know I always grow more when I'm in relationship with a mentor. And, because then you can ask the questions like, okay, I get this, but like, how do I actually do that tomorrow? Right. And what does it look like? What are the steps? And so,
What are the words I should be
yes,
using?
exactly, exactly. So there's so much value in mentorship, one-on-one coaching. I know from what I've received, but then, I've always loved mentoring other
Yeah.
women too. So I
Yes.
enjoy helping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that because we have a lot of women who've reached out, and Travis and I, we work with couples. And so a lot of times the wife is wanting healing and the husband is not.
Mm,
And we haven't had an avenue to help until now.
gotcha.
And that's where
Yeah.
I really feel like you are going to come alongside women and you're going to help the Lord transform their life,
Yes.
and really set a foundation for them to continue to grow beyond even after, the healing that they're walking through initially, but
Hmm.
to continue that growth with the Lord. And right now, we're offering an introductory rate for
Yes.
6 sessions with Jen.
Yeah.
And so, if this interests you, you're going to want to jump on that because we have a limited offer for that. We're only a
Yes.
few people we're able to take at that rate. So go check it out. It's on our website. You can read all about Jen and what she's offering and providing in her one-on-one coaching.
Yes. Yes. There's just something about when the coach or the mentor is being spirit led and the Lord just drops that download and
Yes.
it's like, this is exactly what it can look like for you. It's just so beautiful. And
Yes.
that's what I can't wait to do that with more women.
Yes.
So I'm excited that I get to partner with you because it gives me more options.
Yeah.
I just got to clear my schedule.
Right.
We're working on that. Make
Right.
some room.
Well, just
So
yesterday, like one of my favorite things about coaching women is when they're asking me questions and I feel God say, I want to answer.
yes,
Be
yes,
quiet. I want to answer this. And so creating the space on the coaching call on the screen, because God is not limited by screens being
right.
online coaching.
Hmm.
Set the space for God, invite him in, and then let him speak to the individual that I'm coaching.
Yes.
It takes all the work right off my
Oh,
plate.
for sure.
And it's
Mhm.
way more profound to hear from our father, our daddy, to
Yes.
his daughter specific instructions or specific things that he sees that he wants to refine or even calling to greater.
Yeah.
And every time that happens, it never gets old. It never gets like to the point where I'm like, I'm tired of this because he's so faithful.
Mhm.
He is so faithful, but oftentimes there are barriers and blockages like unforgiveness or unrepented sin. And I'm trying to hear from the Lord,
Yep.
but I don't hear back. And so it can be really discouraging. And that's where, as a women's coach, we're able to take authority over those barriers and
Yes.
remove them
Mhm.
so that there's clear communication from
Right.
the Lord. And He never disappoints.
Right.
So I'm excited for you to experience that too, because
Yeah.
I know you already do that with women in your life. And yeah,
Informally, yes, when
exactly.
we're
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. And even just the other day I was working with a woman and she was sharing some hard things with me and we got off the call and I was like, "Okay, Lord, I feel a little ill-equipped to handle this." And so I'm just praying like I know he's going to tell me what she needs and how to do it, but I was looking at it this way like yeah, I just don't feel super equipped to tackle it this way. And the very next day the Lord said, "You're going to teach her how to do this." And it was totally the not the direction I was
Yep.
coming at it. And I was like, that's what's so invaluable about coaching when you have a spirit-led coach because it's not about the wisdom or the information that they're giving to you. It's
Or
about
psychology, or yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and I have a bachelor's in psychology because I thought I was going to go into family counseling. But
Hmm.
anyhow, so yeah, I you have all the information, you have the expertise, but what does the Lord want to say,
Exactly.
right? And that's what's the most important about those
Yeah.
sessions. So anyhow,
Yeah. Because there's Jen and Adele's path
that's
to
right,
healing, but then there's God's path to
for
healing,
sure.
which is way more direct and solid and truth and
Right?
foundation that I would all day long send women that direction
Yes,
rather than mine, because
for
I don't
sure.
know
Right.
where I would lead them.
I mean, we obviously have decent advice or the Lord wouldn't have called us to this,
Yes.
right? But it's about what does he want to say and
Yes.
being able to get out of his way and be that vessel
Yes.
to help the person in need. So anyway,
Yes.
it's beautiful.
Well, what would you say to the woman who's on the fence where she's like, this sounds really good to me, and there may be some excuses or some reasons that would hold
Mhm.
them back from joining?
Oh my gosh. Every time I feel the Lord nudging me to do something, my excuse is the same. I don't have enough time and I don't have enough money.
Mhm.
And really, the Lord has pushed back on that so many times. And He has proven to me that there is plenty of time and that there is
Yeah.
plenty of money if I will be willing to sit down and listen instead of trying to figure it out in my own brain. If I will just listen to Him, surrender, and be like, okay, Lord, help me get it. Help me understand what steps you want me to take. And that doesn't mean that it might be easy. Like you might have to, more than likely, you will have to make some kind of sacrifice, but it's worth it, right?
Yes.
It's worth it to get that healing and that freedom and that help that you need because you can't always figure things out by yourself. You just can't. That's
Yeah.
just how the world works.
Yeah.
So, and that's why the Lord brings people into our lives that
Yes.
can help us.
So absolutely. I love the equation that Travis and I use, and it's in my book in depth, but it's faith plus
Yes,
obedience equals provision. And so if your
that's right.
excuses are, I don't have enough time and I don't have enough money, God is calling you to a level of faith
Yeah,
maybe you haven't exercised before, and taking the step of obedience because of that faith that He has something for you in this healing program, in working with Jen, whether it's sisterhood or her program, there's something for you. I know that because I'm watching it come together, and women's lives are going to be transformed. And I don't want you to miss out on that.
yeah,
So I just want to encourage you right now, go click the links,
yes,
go learn more about these programs, and hit the sign up now. Don't let the enemy stop you.
right.
And we're not here because we care about the money. We need to make a living, obviously, but we are trying to keep things as affordable as we can
Yeah,
because we don't want these excuses to be in the way, and we want God to work in your life. So hit the button, sign up. You will not be disappointed.
yeah,
God will work in your life. There is no doubt in my mind. The only reason it wouldn't happen is your heart posture not allowing it. If
right.
you come with an open, humble heart posture, God will work, He will move, and He may just use you to transform your marriage with your husband. He
Yep,
may use you to transform your career, the people around you, your kids' lives, your friends' lives. We just don't know.
yeah,
But God has something for you, and there's a purpose that we're here today talking about this, and it's for you.
yeah, exactly. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to be able to not only support your ministry in a different way because I'm
Yeah.
just so love what God's doing, but to be able to help more women. I
Yes,
do. This is what I'm called to do. This is my purpose, and
it
so
is.
I can't wait to yeah
Yeah,
help
me too.
women open up and access that intimacy, open up and access that rich abundant life that they're missing out on just because they
Yeah.
just it's just ignorance. We don't know what we
Mhm.
don't know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if you're thinking, "I don't think I need this because I think I've got it," that's pride. That's the enemy keeping you
Yes,
from getting what God has for you. So,
true.
rebuke that, get rid
Mhm,
of that thought process, and just step into it and see what God has.
mhm.
So, thank you for joining us on this
Yes,
episode and during this conversation. We hope it was life-giving for you. We hope that
yes.
you were inspired by the Lord somehow, some way through this conversation. And
Mm,
we hope to see you in the sisterhood because I will be there as well, learning for myself, growing in my own relationship with the Lord. And I am, even if it's just you and I am pumped
yes, me
about
too.
what God has for me and what He's going to do. So,
Exactly, I agree.
all right.
Mhm.
Well, we'll chat with you later. Thanks for joining. See you next time.
Bye.